On this episode of Southern Fried Geekery.
If Roger or the Hulk were hanging off the side of a cliff and you could only save one, who would it be?
I would jump.
1, 2, 3.
So we went out to dinner last night. We were just going to go to Applebee's. So I threw on a Hulk shirt, just kind of a nerdy Hulk shirt, the one I'm wearing right now. And so we get to Applebee's and the parking lot's just slam packed full. I don't understand why it was slam packed full. And we get there and there's like an hour wait for Applebee's. I don't understand.
You know what the most disappointing thing is about Applebee's? Is there's no apples or bees. So what's even the point?
They have dishes with apples in them, but no, there's probably no bees.
Yeah.
Or they have applewood smoked bacon, which is delicious. Anyway, but yeah, so there's I'm not waiting more than 10 minutes for Applebee's.
Right,
I'm just
right.
I'll be snobbish a little bit for that. Mm-hmm. And so we end up going to this place called Del Fresco's over in West Little Rock, which is like a very nice restaurant. It's not a place I would normally wear an old ratty Hulk shirt to. And so I sat there drinking martinis in this and now I'm wearing it this morning because I'm classy like that.
I was actually texting you yesterday. Surprisingly, I didn't text you first, but I was trying on clothes and I was trying to get his input.
I was his queer eye.
Somehow, whenever I was leaving the place, I tweaked my back. So, I don't know if I was
getting old's fun.
Pulling the pants on weird or tucking the shirt in strangely.
I don't know. I did yard work yesterday afternoon, and now I feel like shit today. And then Roger made a comment, because Roger's allergic to everything, so he makes a comment about smelling the green, and then I made a joke about Swamp Thing, and then he regretted 7 of his marriage vows right there. I saw it in his face.
I went to Taco Bell to take over to Jerry's last night for gaming night, and 45 minutes to get through the freaking drive-thru at Taco Bell. I called the corporate office.
God. We know how to Saturday, guys.
Yes.
Fuck yeah. Well, you guys ready to do a podcast?
No. Yeah, let's do this.
Oh, yeah, sure.
All right. Hey, y'all out there in Radio Land. Welcome to another episode of Southern Fried Geekery, and this, I believe, is episode 9.
9, yeah, because
9.5.
We have one that's a 0.5.
Yeah, we had the Black Panther special, which still getting a lot of attention. It was really fun.
Technically recorded 11 episodes, just let me say, because there was that one that got shit on.
There was that one that I purposely threw away because it was your first one.
Oh, yay.
No, just kidding.
You're beautiful.
The recording device program type thing that we used to record took a shit on us that one day, and it got lost forever. But now we're back, and now we are just, like I said, continually to record episodes, and we're having a really good time doing it. As always, I'm one of your co-hosts, Caleb.
I'm Craig.
Osu, mina no tomo daze, kyo no episode, wakoku yoku kimoraze.
Google Translate.
No, they'll figure it out. I
Okay.
promise it wasn't asking for nudes, and I really hope I didn't butcher the shit out of that, but I'm pretty sure I fucked up that
But why
last
don't you
part.
tell the folks who don't speak Japanese at home who you are?
No, it's fine.
They just don't need to know?
Yeah, I
Okay.
said it in my opening.
Okay.
That's Jerry, and Sean is out sick today.
Sean had to call in to the SFG podcast. He is not well, and we hope he gets better soon. I want to, as always, invite you all to leave us a review and rating on iTunes. That lets us reach out to more people. It lets us know what we're doing well, what we're doing maybe not so well, some stuff you'd like to see changed. I don't know of any other of the services that allow you to rate and review us other than iTunes at the moment, but if they do, by all means, do it on there. We really like the feedback and we appreciate it. If you want to connect with us, you can do so on our Instagram and our Twitter feeds. We are at SFG Podcast. You can email us at southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. And now, for the first time, we are the proud proprietors of a Facebook page and
I've
Facebook
had a
group.
Facebook page since 2008 though.
Right, but Southern Fried Geekery hasn't.
Oh,
It's not about you, Jerry.
Oh, you're right.
It's
Okay.
about Southern Fried
My
Geekery.
bad.
And yeah, guys, like us on Facebook. Get over there. We are discussing all the things that we talk about on the show. We are listing links to some really good articles. We're asking what you're interested in, and we're connecting with you, and it's a really, really good time. So yeah, reach out to us. Before we get too far, do we have any shout-outs for the week?
My shout-outs are going to go to the people that helped me with that translation.
Yeah.
I essentially went to one person with it and got a base of what I wanted to say, and then actually ended up hitting up one of my Crunchyroll friends. And I don't feel like those translators get enough credit for all the work that they do. Two of the people that I went to Japan with and everything, I really hope I didn't butcher that. I'm sorry if I did. But Michelle, Becky, Joanna, thanks a bunch. You guys are the best.
And if he did butcher that, then come on this show and fight him about it.
No, don't fight me.
All right, I'd like to give a shout out to Eric Rubright from Odyssey Tattoo Shop in Mintonville, Arkansas. Not only does he do all of my ink and has fixed almost every piece that I had prior to hooking up with Eric, he's just a really great tattoo artist. Go check him out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So.
Very cool. Well, this week my shout out is going to go to our friend and hopefully friend of the show, Mr. John Lucas. For those of you who don't know John Lucas, he is a comic book artist. He's worked for just about every major publisher. Did a stint on Deadpool, has worked for IDW, has worked for Image, DC, but he recently finished up his own creator-owned project, which is available now. And I'm not going to get too much in detail on it because he has agreed to do an interview with us on the shows and talk about this new, I think it's an OGN. It's a period piece. It's set probably turn of the century. I've seen some of the art stills from it. He's been working on it for a long time, and it's absolutely gorgeous. The man is an extremely talented artist.
Was it about Houdini?
Yes.
I believe it was about Houdini.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's called After Houdini. Is the name of the...
It's like he's been pimping the cover of it for this last week and stuff, and it looks really cool.
Yeah, it's stunning. And like I said, he posts the page on his Instagram feeds. It's beautiful. I wish I had that much talent, but my stick figures look obese and my circles look anorexic. So I don't got that skills.
And it is available right now on Amazon.com.
It absolutely is. And so we can't wait to help him promote it and also help him talk about it on the show. It was a busy week all up in the Nerdverse. Had a lot of things going on. So Jerry, why don't you kick us off with some nerd news?
Nerd legend Kevin Smith suffered a major heart attack. You guys probably heard about this by now for sure. The writer superfan had a 100% blockage in one of his major arteries and is just lucky to be alive. Like it's so crazy, how this kind of stuff just can happen to our legends. Like there was at least 3 or 4 things like this that happened in the news this week.
Yeah.
We even lost somebody too. Who was that?
We lost David Ogden Stiers yesterday.
Yeah. And
Cogsworth from Beauty and the Beast. Or
also one of the generals or majors from MASH, I believe.
Yeah, Major Winchester.
Yeah, that is just crazy. It really really lets the mortality set in whenever you see your heroes and all these icons and stuff get sick and stuff. And also Stan Lee is dealing with pneumonia. So people, wash your hands.
Don't spread infectious diseases.
Yeah, put hand sanitizer on. Lysol the shit out of everything.
Try not to die.
The crazy thing about Kevin Smith is it was actually after he lost a bunch of weight.
It was.
Yeah, and I mean, he's 47 and he's probably in the best shape of his life right now.
Yeah, from what I understand, he had a 100% blockage in one of his main arteries. I'm not sure off the top of my head which one. But so when you have a 100% blockage, that's not anything that just started yesterday. The plaque had been building up for a while, and it's just one of those things that, you function normally until you don't.
Yeah.
But we are really glad he's doing somewhat better and in recovery, and we wish him the best of luck. And, hope
Stanley as well?
Yeah, both of them, everybody. If Sean as well. All of y'all need to get better because we love all of you, and we like you on this plane of existence. So try not to check out anytime soon. Sean, you're probably on the bottom of that list just because you're up against Stan Lee, but, don't feel too bad. That was a joke.
Bada bing.
It was a busy week if you worked for Marvel.
Yeah.
Especially if you were the one in charge of releasing Marvel news. Most of the time when we do this, we have bullet points of the news things we're going to talk about. Marvel alone was equivalent to the news that we usually put out. So I'm going to try to, speed round through this real quick, not spend much time on any one. So first, we're getting Odinson back. He is jumping back on the... Yeah, he's jumping back on the Thor title. We're going to get a new Thor #1 from Jason Aaron and Mike Del Mundo. It's apparently launching on June 13th. We're getting a solo Cosmic Ghost Rider book, much to the happiness of Jerry. Donnie Cates is going to keep writing it. The artist has not been announced, but we'll get it soon, I'm assuming. Cates is also going to be doing a new Venom book with Ryan Stegman. So
very interesting.
Super pumped about that. We are getting a Multiple Man. I believe it's going to be a mini-series.
Who cares about that?
I care about that. Fuck you. Jamie Madrox is definitely in my top 5 of Marvel folks. He's been dead for a little bit. because our friend Aaron Cooter drew him dead. I have a personal chagrin about that, but I love Aaron, so I'm going to let it go. But yeah, he is getting his own series by Matthew Rosenberg and Andy McDonald. Also on the list of things that is going to make Caleb happy, heroes are coming back from the dead. Bruce Banner is going to be back and will be in the Immortal Hulk #1 by Al Ewing and Joe Bennett. That's a really talented team, and yeah, Bruce Banner is the best Hulk, and the Hulk is the best of anything. So we're super pumped about that.
Hulk is best there is.
It's been confirmed. Captain America is going to be handled by the creative team of Ta-Nehisi Coates and Lionel Yu, which is insane.
Wait, is that Nazi Cap or is that regular Cap?
Cap was never a Nazi. I'm going to throw the computer across the room. Go read the series if you want to talk about the series. But yeah, so Ta-Nehisi Coates is going to be writing that. I think, I'm not 100% sure, I think this is the first time a Captain America story has been written by an African American or a person of color in that sense. So that's landmark. It's super big. And it's going to be starting on Free Comic Book Day. Ant-Man and the Wasp, and when we say that, we're talking about Scott Lang and Nadia Pym. They're getting a 6-issue limited by Mark Waid and Javier Garron. Spider-Man is going to be in the very capable hands of Mr. Nick Spencer, who also wrote the Not Nazi Cap, and Mr. Ryan Otley, who just finished up his stint on Invincible, which was a long-running, amazing series that I have not read, but you all should, because I'm a bad nerd. And then, I don't even know if I can say this lastly, but especially not leastly, because I'm sure in the last 15 minutes they've announced more things, but Doctor Strange is going to be written by Mark Waid and an artist whose last name is Saez, and I didn't do my due diligence finding out his first name. He should come on this show and punch me, and I will let it because I don't know his first name. So yeah, that's our quick lightning round Marvel wrap-up.
You'll get hit in the face and be like, who are you again?
Yeah,
Right?
what was your first name?
And all of this is kind of tying into their fresh start that was announced last week under the supervision and the direction of the new editor-in-chief. So we're really, really excited about what's coming out from those guys.
There's no doubt that losing Bendis to DC, they've had to do some reshuffling. But then you also have the new editorial staff coming in, and the combination of all of these things, I think, is going to play out very well for the fans of Marvel.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, yeah, we're going to lose some things, but we're gaining a lot of things.
We are, and, you know, we are all a little bit aggravated about the numbering situation just because as collectors we all have big collections, and when they change up the numbering it does throw a monkey wrench in that system, but it's just kind of something I think that we're going to have to learn to deal with.
It is.
It's every publisher's doing it. It's not something that's going to change. It's just something that we're going to have to just bite our teeth.
Well,
or
even
quit
Image,
buying comics, and that's not going to happen.
Well, even Image, who's been kind of a big outspoken person, or no, they've been outspoken against the constant renumbering at Marvel and even DC to an extent. They've started to do it where instead of like Rat Queens came back, it's volume 2 already, and you've got different titles that I've noticed that they put a subtitle on it and start back at number 1, even though it's the same title, it's the same story. They did it with Rumble's on volume 2, but it's the same story continued. So
It's always funny how people in one position have an idea about how things should be and how that position kind of switches once they hit a position of management and they have to do things in according to some rules that they may have not been privy for. So, you know, that's how business works.
that's right.
Anyway, so some other stuff happened.
Yeah, so you did not wake up and you were not in the world of Dream the Endless's universe, but you will be because Neil Gaiman is going to give us a Sandman universe.
Yeah, he is.
And it's written with a bunch of different collaborators for the first book, and then they are going to have a bunch of miniseries that shoot off of this that are going to be based, I believe, on different people from the Endless, so maybe Dream and Death and so on and so forth. And I, for one, am totally excited about this. If you have not read Sandman yet, get out there and read it because you are going to be wanting to be on this book, I promise you. Or on these books. The Sandman Universe book hits on August 8th, so look for that, and then the miniseries will start shortly after that.
Cannot wait. This is big news, man.
I'm going to mix it up for a second and talk about a anime series that they just announced the release date for. They have this series called Gundam Build Fighters. It's really cool. It's more about building the models and fighting with the models and stuff like that, other than, you know, instead of just war and stuff like that. They just announced that the newest series, Gundam Build Divers, releases on April the 3rd. So that's pretty exciting for anybody who's into that. If you wanted to check it out, they actually have all of the episodes available on an official YouTube channel called Gundam Info. I totally recommended it. Really got me interested in building the models and everything like that.
This next news, I don't know how I feel about it 100%, but Kristen Wiig has been cast as Cheetah in the next Wonder Woman film. On one hand, it's Kristen Wiig as Cheetah. On the other hand, I don't know that I really bought Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, and she nailed it, so I will reserve judgment till after I see it. Because so far, the series, that particular series, the Wonder Woman on its own, has been in very capable hands. So.
Yeah, well, and I think DC they're looking towards the future, and they're having faith in their directors, they're having faith in their producers, all of their cast, because at the same time, they cast, I forget his name, but the individual from Chuck to play Captain Marvel or Shazam, depending on what you want to call him.
Shazam.
And when you told me that, I kind of crossed my eyes and was like, no, that's stupid, but I've seen stills from the show, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And we are talking about people who get paid a lot of money to, bulk up or bulk down or to do whatever they want to do. So it's one of those things. I'm curious to see how it works itself out.
Honestly, Cheetah's probably going to be a CGI character anyways.
Very possibly. I think there's going to be a lot of CGI added into it, and that seems to be DC's modus operandi when it comes to villains, is to mother them into CG.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah. In other movie news, this one is actually an animated feature that I'm really excited about. Wreck-It Ralph 2. The teaser came out this week. It nearly broke the internet, at least in my world. Lots of fanfare, and that's pretty much all that needs to be said about it. We're getting a second Wreck-It Ralph movie. The first was hilarious. It actually came out, I think 2012. It came out right around the time I had a really, really bad motorcycle wreck. I used to ride Harleys. It was a lot of fun. I still love to ride bikes, but I had an accident, trashed it, ended up in the hospital for a little bit, and then everybody sent me cards, flowers, and text messages making Wreck-It Ralph jokes. So, there's a little bit of tangential Caleb in there, and, I'm ready for this film.
You wrecked it, Ralph.
I did. I did.
My next news is movie related, and I'm really surprised that Caleb didn't jump on this, but they just announced a new Crow movie with Jason Momoa.
Well, it's been announced for a while.
Yeah. Did they just announce that it was Jason Momoa?
No, it's been announced that it was Jason Momoa. What they announced this week is that it got an official production date.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah,
um,
I was wondering, because I know that they've had one in the works for a little while now.
They have. I actually sat down with James O'Barr about 4 years ago and discussed the production meetings and stuff that he'd been having and everything about this. Mm-hmm. He read me off a short list of people that he wanted to play. At the time, Jason Momoa was not on that list. Oh. I think they cast him, 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
But no one knew who Jason Momoa was 4 years ago.
He was the guy who played Conan at that point. That was it.
And he'd been in
Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Well, but maybe 2 seasons in or something. He certainly wasn't the level of
I
star.
don't think he didn't make it past first season.
Oh, no, he died hard.
Yeah.
He died hard.
I don't
As
watch
anybody
Game of
who plays
Thrones,
Conan.
Which crazy, because that's his biggest claim to fame. Well, other than now Aquaman, which, debatable. But anyway, that's one of the biggest things that he's known for is, other
Game of Thrones.
Because I honestly didn't recognize him from Conan.
Yeah.
Because I saw
He's bulked up a lot more.
Oh, yeah,
Not that he wasn't huge in Conan, but he's bulked up more.
Yeah, I can't wait.
And
I'm a big
mostly
Crow
because
fan.
Conan that version was a little bit forgettable.
It was not a great movie.
No.
It was not.
wasn't his fault.
No.
It just, there was not a great movie that was made. Back to an animated feature. The Rocketeer is returning. It's a new animated series. It's got a little bit of twist from Dan Stevens' classic pulp story. The new Rocketeer is going to be a young girl named Kit, who it's a legacy thing. So they're actually throwing it down to, they're not making the original Rocketeer. They're not gender swapping them. So all you alt-right assholes can calm down. It's a young girl who is getting passed down the legs. Oh, I give no fucks. Fuck those guys.
Yeah.
I've had to deal with them on Twitter all week.
No, for real.
So it's a new girl named Kit. I'm super excited. Can't wait to see what they do with it. I wish it the best of luck and hope it gets lots of success.
So the thing is...
Time out. Something just happened. Okay, we're all good. Audacity decided to crash for a little bit, but we're back and live. So I don't know what that was about. I got the pinwheel of death on my computer for a second, and now it's doing what it's supposed to. So, scared me a little bit. Let's try not to do that again. Yeah, thoughts, prayers. I talked shit about the alt-right, and then my computer fucked up. Obviously, Trump is sabotaging things.
So the thing about the Rocketeer,
Yeah.
is you can totally replace characters.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a jetpack. It's not
Spider powers
superpowers. It's
or
yeah. I mean, it's
raging out and turning into a giant
Yeah.
green monster.
yeah. So our last little bit of news is that Brian K. Vaughan is writing the screenplay for a Silver Surfer film. I don't know how I feel about Silver Surfer film, but I know how I feel about Brian K. Vaughan, so I'm totally excited about this now.
I feel great about Brian K. Vaughan. I feel great about Silver Surfer. The thing I don't feel great about this is that it's still attached to Fox. And it's supposed to be somehow in conjunction with the abomination that was the Fantastic Four movie that they did. So that's the part that I'm worried about. I don't...
My biggest thing is at this point in movie making, there's been so many times where like, hey, this comic book creator is involved in this movie. To this point, it has not reassured me at all. I mean, because we've had Jeff Johns has been involved in what was it?
He did
Batman
Green
v
Lantern.
Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there were other people involved in BVS, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, Jeff Johns and...
Yeah. I don't know. I'm on the fence, and it being Fox is really not helping.
Again, we'll wait and reserve judgment. For the most part, I do have a lot of faith in the writing abilities of Mr. Brian K. Vaughan because he is a functional genius. If anybody can, Fox has gotten better. I will say that. I don't want to sit here and just pretend like everything Fox has came out with is garbage. They came out with Logan. They came out with Deadpool. Both of those were really good. You know, they did Legion on television. They've done...
It's getting a second season.
Yeah, it is getting a second season. They did another show, I believe, on FX or something. For all intents and purposes, is X Factor, which is super...
Gifted?
Yeah, The Gifted.
Yeah.
It's really, really good.
Yeah,
So I'm
Gifted
not going
was
to pretend like Fox isn't capable of producing a good movie, because I absolutely think they are. So, you know, hopefully this is what that is. I love The Silver Surfer. I'm one of those rare people that didn't hate... I mean, I didn't love, but I didn't hate the original Fantastic Four movie where the Silver Surfer appeared. I didn't care for their Space Ghost Galactus, but we'll see what Brian K. Vaughan does.
Yeah.
Oh, we got any more news?
Why do we
Anything
have
else?
to end on that?
Do you have? I don't know. Because
quick,
Brian K.
quick,
Vaughan.
come up with something else, quick. News, Craig, give me anything.
Well, this is not
I got
necessarily. I guess okay. I've got something else. We'll end it on this, and we'll segue into the next segment.
Okay.
The month of March is officially Women in Literature month, and that includes everything for people who write novels, people who write for magazines, people who write comics. It's all to celebrate the women in literature, the women who have stepped forward and wrote amazing things, and to give them the recognition that they don't get a lot of times. They hit that glass ceiling, and it's hard to be a professional, and we know this. I mean, if you look in the people who create comics, who work in comics, for the most part, it's pretty hegemonious, whatever you say. It's for the most part, it's ran just like homogenous. It's pretty much ran
Words.
in the same way that a lot of other corporations are, and at the head, the people are mostly straight white dudes. And so we're going to celebrate some women in comics and in literature. And one of the really cool things that we get to do this week is we got to sit down with Nancy A. Collins, who has written several novels, but she also is probably best known in our circles as the writer of Vampirella, and she was the first, and to this date, the only woman who has written Swamp Thing. She was instrumental in kicking off Vertigo. In the interview, she talks about being friends with Neil Gaiman and some of the stuff they did. It was a pleasure to sit down with her recently at Not Another Comic-Con here in Little Rock. Thank you to Larry for setting that up, because we're reaping a lot of benefits and rewards from it.
Absolutely.
So let's take a moment to jump into that interview with Miss Collins. All right, welcome back to the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. I'm Caleb.
I'm Craig.
And we are sitting here with the amazingly talented and wonderful Nancy A. Collins. She has written some of the, I'd argue, biggest names in pulp horror comic.
If you say so.
I want to.
Well, and you were the first woman to write Swamp Thing.
I'm the only woman to write Swamp Thing
yeah.
so far. I did that 20-something years ago.
That's amazing. Now, we were actually just talking because you knew Lynn and Bernie.
Yes,
correct?
yes. Yeah, I knew them both. I know Alan. Steve Bissett is one of my best friends.
Really?
So,
I actually just got a copy of, there was a comic that just came out. It was put together. I'm trying to remember what it was. Was it a Frankenstein book?
Oh, Frankenstein Alive Alive.
Yeah, Frankenstein Alive Alive. It was
Okay.
Bernie's last book. It just came out. It's an incredible guy. But as much as we love him, I kind of want to talk about you.
All right.
So tell us about what it's like being a writer who's kind of pioneered for other women in comics.
well, I mean, there were definitely other women before
Well, you've
me,
got
but
women like Wheezy and
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and Marie Severin,
Yeah.
Colleen Doran, who's a good friend of mine. She was doing comics as a teenager when back when I was in college.
Wow.
And it's interesting. I mean, basically, I've done the vast majority of my professional work for DC.
Yeah.
In fact, my first professional job as a comics writer was writing Swamp Thing. So I kind of went from zero to that,
Yeah.
and I was one of the writers that helped launch the Vertigo line.
Right.
That was interesting. One of my old friends is Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
And I've known Neil for like 30 years. It was interesting, and it was at a time back when DC was flush with what we call bat dollars.
Yeah.
That initial rush from the first Tim Burton Batman film, which basically meant everything was possible. Watchmen and The Dark Knight were still relatively new, and that was the first real surge of geek culture
To the mainstream.
to the mainstream.
Beyond anything, I would say taken seriously. I mean, you had you had the Saturday morning cartoons, but these were done in a very respectful adult manner.
Yeah, well, this was the time when when Watchmen was getting a lot of attention as a graphic novel.
Yeah.
At being the first, like, quote unquote, adult graphic novel that meant to be read as opposed to just looked at. And that helped launch the Vertigo line. These aren't your daddy's funny books kind of thing.
Did you, when you say you helped launch the Vertigo line, what were you writing for?
I was writing Swamp Thing.
You were writing Swamp Thing. That was under the Vertigo line.
That was my first year. I was still in the DCU, and then the second year was the Vertigo launch. Let's see, that's when they'd separated out John Constantine, Swamp Thing, Animal Man, Doom Patrol, Kid Eternity, Shade the Changing Man, House of Mystery, and a couple of other books of magic. Those were all created or separate, kept separate from
the more adult
regular
line, right?
You just read that off like an encyclopedia out of your head. That's I just want to live in your brain for a little bit.
Well, I remember we had this big DC had us go to Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
In Tarrytown, New York, and we had this big big powwow where we sat down. We were going to figure out what the next year and our first event comic and everything. And so it sticks in my mind.
Wonderful. One of your big marquee items here at this particular con is your Vampirella work.
Yes, that's my most recent. That and Army of Darkness were my most recent comics. I was out of comics for a long time, and then got back in through Dynamite.
Yeah.
And I did got my toes wet doing some Red Sonja work, and then they asked me if I wanted to do Vampirella, and I did Vampirella for like a year and a half, and also I did a 13-issue run, plus a couple of crossovers and a couple of miniseries and some one-shots.
Very cool. Did they offer you Vampirella, or did you ask for Vampirella?
They offered me. They asked me if I wanted to do Vampirella.
Was that part of the Gail Simone relaunch?
Well, it was just before. I also wrote some of the Swords of Sorrow stuff.
Which
but
was
basically,
very good too.
That wasn't very good.
But basically, Gail recommended me to them. But they are. But
She is
Nick
such an amazing
Barucci.
person.
But Nick Barucci already knew me for my Swamp Thing.
Right.
And I enjoyed it. They pretty much gave me free reign, and my focus with Vampirella was kind of take her back to some of her Warren roots, and I reintroduced characters that had originally been in the 1970s run. Some of them only existed like in one comic, like what appeared in one issue and never seen again. So I reintroduced the character of Evelyn, or now blanking on the character's name. I think it's Evelyn. Who I redesigned. She was a witch. She was a sorceress, a witch. Originally, she was supposed to be like Vampirella's cousin or something, but she was just another version of Vampirella. And
you also brought back Vampirella's twin sister.
Yes, Draculina.
Yeah.
Who had another case of a character that appeared once and was never used again. And,
how much research do you have to do to go find those characters that only appeared into like one?
Well, everything's on the internet.
Yeah.
So, and plus, anything I really needed, Dynamite would send me PDFs.
Working with editors and stuff.
Well, PDFs from the original stuff that they had, because they've been reprinting all the Warren stuff, in archival forms, and so I need something from this issue or this issue, and they just go, okay, we'll send you a PDF.
Yeah.
And I'd be able to look it back up and review. Most of it I actually could still remember.
when you're writing a character, would you rather write something of your own, or would you rather write some of these pulp characters from and go back and?
Well, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I mean, I've done my own characters, and being able to be able to work without continuity issues.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's one thing I love to be able to do that. But for the most part, comics is you're playing with other people's toys.
Right.
Right.
And as long as you're aware of that, that's not an issue. And once you've created something, it's either in or it's up to other people what they do with it. Everything I did with Swamp Thing was written out of continuity.
Right.
But so that's a weird feeling.
What do you think of those when you're writing them out of continuity? Do you think of those like Elseworld tales as you're writing them, or do they?
No,
just
when I say it was written out of continuity, everything I did no longer exists.
Yeah, they retconned it because of the New 52.
Yeah, the New 52. Everything that ever happened in the 2 years I wrote Swamp Thing never happened.
Well, now with some of the going back, it may come back.
Yeah,
you never
I
know
might.
with DC.
Some of my characters have popped up, in some other Vertigo stuff.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's like everything I did was erased.
Yeah.
Which is a thing that happens in comics.
Yeah, that's one of the things you have to kind of, and to a great extent, a lot of what Alan did was written out of continuity. So it's not like they were picking on me.
Right. And creator-owned stuff that's a big conversation in comics right now. And you're talking about Alan, reminds me of some of the things that's going on with Alan Moore's Watchmen stuff right now, where they're bringing his characters back into continuity, and there's a lot of people have problems with that because they're not sure what to do with them.
Well, Watchmen was such a unique and odd bird to begin with.
Yeah.
To try and turn it itself was based on pre-existing comic book characters, so it's not like that DNA was not
right.
Sampled from somewhere.
Charlton character. Sorry, I was going blank. I apologize.
So it's not like this DNA had not come from somewhere else, but at the same time, what made Watchmen work does not lend itself to being a sequel.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm saying it's like you don't need a Citizen Kane to,
right.
Well,
I'm reading that series right now that's coming out right now, where they are basically presenting it as a sequel to The Watchmen. And one of the things I commented on when it first came out was that even though you have a writer as good as Jeff Johns, only Alan Moore can be Alan Moore.
Yeah.
And when it comes to that series, when it's such a creator-driven voice, in that you can tell he's doing very hard work trying to capture that, but it's just outside the limitations of what he's able to do because he's not in Alan Moore's head.
Yeah, and he's not coming at it from the outside of being someone reading American comics but not being an American.
Right. Well, and there's also the culture of the '80s when that was written. That had a lot to do with the spirit.
And that was at the time that was very new.
Yeah.
That's what made Watchmen so revolutionary, is no one had done that before. No one had deconstructed what it means to be a superhero.
Yeah.
And the fact that you really don't want them.
No, and I don't know that you can understand what it means to have a character like the comedian this far out from Nixon, from Reagan, because a lot of that just era, the political structure. Even though we have there's plenty of political things going on now that you could get into, but
or characters like Rorschach and the fact that the only superhuman in the comics in Watchmen is Dr. Manhattan, and basically he evolves past being a superhero.
Right. He becomes a god.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's like this is silly bullshit. I don't need to be doing this anymore, and I'll leave you to your own devices. Right. Goodbye.
Absolutely. So what? Talking about creator-owned stuff, characters of yours?
My character, Sonia Blue, it was my first novel, Sunglasses After Dark, which won the Bram Stoker Award and the British Fantasy Award. A punk female vampire / vampire slayer. Mm-hmm. There's 4 or 5 books in the series. There was I had a comic book version that was done by Parodic Publications back in the 90s, Glenn Danzig's comic book company. And the artist and I revamped the artwork, recolored it digitally, had the lettering done digitally because we couldn't afford to buy the
original pages.
We had the original pages. We couldn't afford to buy the film.
Oh, okay.
The saps from Glenn. But and plus we just wanted to kind of update it a little bit because make it a little bit more 21st century.
Right.
And it came out through my IDW in a hardback edition. It's beautiful. It's a gorgeous piece of work.
I will have to look that up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
exactly
available.
like
It's
something.
also available on Comixology.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, that helps out a lot. I'm a child of the '90s, so things like Vampire the Masquerade, those RPGs, that's
Yeah.
my bread and butter. So this sounds like absolutely something I need.
Yeah,
to
I was published
live
by
in.
White Wolf.
Were you?
Yes,
Really?
that stuff was very close to theirs.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. But yeah,
I didn't know that. That's incredible.
yeah.
I miss those guys.
They're all pretty much gone. I mean, although Vampire the Masquerade's coming back,
Yeah.
Mark Ryan Hagen, I think, has bought his copyrights back.
I've heard that. I haven't seen anything being produced out of it, but I knew that he had got them back.
Yeah, he's raising money for it right
Very
now.
cool.
And so look on Patreon or whatever.
Yeah. Now, do you have a Patreon?
No. Being a writer, it's easier to do Patreon if you're a graphic artist or if you do other forms of media. Being a writer, I can't crank out stuff on a
Right.
monthly basis
Yeah.
Right.
or every 2 weeks. That's just not how it works.
Right.
So I don't. I've tried a couple of indie funding things and it didn't reach goals. And
Right.
in one case, my collaborator died on me.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm fairly sorry.
but there's but I've still got the people poking me with a stick about the character.
Right.
Each time it gets closer to being realized. So I've got someone who's looking at the Sonny Blue property right now.
Very,
Yeah,
very nice. Now, are
and-
you wanting to take it? I know you said this was in a novel form. Are you wanting to take it outside of that? Or are you
Oh
wanting
yeah,
to-
it's a producer looking at it.
Oh, very. So it's being optioned for film.
Yeah, well, or it's more likely. But I foresee it eventually ending up. If it goes anywhere, it'll be like a streaming property.
Yeah,
because that's the future.
that is the future.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what
Yeah.
everybody's trying to get into right now.
Yeah, whether it's a streaming movie or a streaming series.
Right.
And I've got another producer looking at one of my weird westerns. I write those as well.
We were actually having a conversation about westerns last night.
Yeah.
So when you say weird western, what constitutes
Well,
a weird
in my
western?
case, it's I did a trio of novels or novellas that are basically taking the concept of archetypes of Western and the archetypes of Gothic horror
Yeah.
and combining it. And the archetypes of the Western are the American Indian, the gunslinger, and the lawman.
Yeah.
And for Gothic horror, it's the vampire, the Frankenstein's monster, and the Wolfman.
Right.
And I did the first one I did was called Walking Wolf, and it was basically a little big man with a werewolf,
Okay.
and an like a European werewolf raised by American Indians in the
I
Old
have
West.
not heard of this.
Yeah. Do you have those books on your
And
table?
they're all available online.
Oh, okay.
You can get them as ebooks and print on demand.
I'm gonna have
do
to
it through Amazon.
That sounds fascinating.
The second one was called Lynch, a Gothic Western, which is about a Frankenstein gunslinger.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
So when you say weird Western, you meant a
yeah,
weird Western.
weird
That's awesome
Western.
now.
And the third one is called Hell Comes Sundown, which combines. It's kind of like what if the Lone Ranger was a vampire,
Yeah.
and they're all very much influenced more like by the spaghetti westerns of,
Right.
of the '60s. There's definitely a strong Sergio Leone feel
Yeah.
to these, as opposed to like Max Brand or
Right.
Zane Grey or Louis L'Amour.
Wow.
It's definitely more along the the
Well, and
1960s.
That reminds me of that have came out recently. I say recently, in the last 5 to 8 years in pop culture. The Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies,
Yeah.
where they're taking these classic style tropes of of the novel canon
Mhm.
and adding weird sci-fi
Yeah.
twisted things to it.
I did a novella called From Hell's Heart, which combined Captain Ahab,
Oh,
which had Captain Ahab Monster Hunter, basically.
Oh, wow.
But he's still dead.
Yeah.
I mean, he basically he goes to hell, and the devil tells him, if you want to ever be free, because he's in purgatory. Because if you read Moby Dick, Captain Ahab's not actually a bad man.
no, he's not.
He's
He's
just
obsessed.
obsessed,
Right.
and he's in purgatory, and to pay for the deaths of
Mhm.
of everyone on the Pequod that he's responsible for. he has to do what the devil asks of him, which is hunt down monsters for the devil's menagerie.
Yeah.
And they're all like wandering loose. And one of the jobs he does is, in this one, he's hunting down a Wendigo.
Wow. Okay.
And so it's actually
white whale, white monster.
yeah. And I combined Arthur Macken's The Wendigo with Captain Ahab.
Yeah.
But although it's also very much kind of like elements of the Evil Dead, and because that's really what in the original Evil Dead, when you really think about it, that's what's haunting that cabin.
Absolutely.
And so there's elements of Lovecraft and Machen and Raimi in this thing called From Hell's Heart. It's in a thing called Classics Mutilated that came out through IDW. Joe Lansdale did a Lovecraft meets Huck Finn.
I've heard of this. I haven't read it yet, but I have heard of that. That's fascinating. I'm gonna have to go. You just spent about $100 out of my wallet. So real quick, what do you have coming down the pipeline? What are you working on now?
Right now I'm working on a proposal for a comic book series, an original comic book series called Suffragette City, which is kind of like what if, kind of not exactly retelling the Superman story, but more like what it means to be a superhero as seen through the eyes of what turns out to be the most important, the most important female superhero of this universe. And so it's kind of like my version of trying to do Watchmen and Brat Pack and but it starts out with her being a teenager until she's in her 50s and 60s and having to pick a successor.
Yeah.
But basically just kind of retelling the evolution of the superhero, but through a female superhero.
Is this, and you said this was a pitch that you
worked on? Yeah. If I can't get anyone interested in doing it as a comic book, I'm going to write it as a novel. So
I definitely hope you get it as a comic.
I read both, so either way, I want to read this. What is it like shifting from writing comic scripts to writing prose novels?
Writing a comic book script is like writing a short story, and it's far easier because I don't have to do the donkey work.
Right.
The heavy lifting in comics is done by the artist. It's like, for me, it's like writing a screenplay with I do scene direction. I come up with the ideas, I come up with the characters, and I will suggest what the characters are supposed to look like, and do scene direction and such of like this character's supposed to be standing over here because this character's coming in from stage left, stage right to get the scene its feel instead of just and draw a bunch of Confederate soldiers riding dinosaurs coming over the hill to fight a guerrilla army made up of gorillas, and where they just go like, and then clutches heart, falls over dead, and but I try to give them some help and where everyone's supposed to be located, for whether they're in the foreground, the background, what the business is, if there's business in the background, whether it needs to be pulled forward or back. And I had a background on radio, television, so I actually know how to speak to that. Right. Whereas when you write a novel, you have to do everything. Yeah. You have to describe. You have to be able to describe what's going on. It can't be just driven by dialogue. Right. You have to set your stage. You have to set the stage for people to be able to, because you can't just assume everyone has your imagination. You have to do some work.
I'm working on my BA in creative writing, and that's one of the things. It's like you have to also remember people don't live in your head. You have to literally put it down on paper.
Yeah, and they haven't read what you've read.
Right.
And that's always have to tell people is like, it's always good to read outside of whatever genre you're trying to aim for, because you can get a bag. It's like having a bag over your head.
Well, my professors like to say you can tell when a writer doesn't read.
Yeah.
Well, Miss Collins, you were a very busy woman, and I cannot thank you enough for sitting down for us.
No problem.
This was enlightening, and it was pleasurable, and I hope you had a good time at the con.
I enjoyed it. I'm from Arkansas originally.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. Southeast. I'm from McGee originally.
Oh, okay. I grew up in Devils Bluff, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we probably played each other in basketball at some point.
Yeah, at some point. But yeah, I haven't lived in the state for 30 years, but
congratulations.
I moved away back in 1980, and but I still own my siblings and I still own a farm.
Yeah.
So I cousins and whatever. My family has deep roots here, but I mean, I keep forgetting that my family had been here for 3 generations.
Yeah.
And so we go deep. There's a prison here in the state named after my
wow.
grandma's uncle.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that kind of thing.
We are going to let you.
Not
get
because
back
he was a bad man, mind you.
Right.
He was on the other side of the bar.
Yeah, he was a penologist.
Well, we're going to let you get back to your table and go sell some more
All
books
right.
and stuff. But thank you again
Thank you
so
so
much
much.
for sitting down
No,
with us. It was
no
a pleasure.
problem. Y'all take care.
Thanks for listening to that interview. We had a lot of fun
Absolutely.
interviewing her, so hope you guys had as much fun listening as we did.
What an incredible person.
Yeah, she
What an
really is.
incredible person.
She really is, and I'm really looking forward to reading some of those books she talked about. I really got to get those ordered either through Audible if they're available or buy the books themselves, but some of those just sound really amazing to me.
Yeah.
And I don't read a lot of prose anymore.
I read a lot of prose. I don't read a lot of maybe
Fiction.
sci-fi and that kind of fiction and stuff, but I absolutely need to pick some of those up because they just sound phenomenal. Miss Collins, we really do appreciate you sitting down and taking the time to speak with us. It meant a lot. We learned a lot. Come back anytime. That was a lot of fun. So now that Jerry is full-time on this little cast of nerds, we want to branch out and talk about things other than just comics. We talk about comics a lot on this show, but it's not, as we've said before, called Southern Fried Comics. It's called Southern Fried Geekery. There's whole areas of fandom out there that we want to reach out in and help explore. Stuff that I, quite frankly, don't give a shit about, but other people do. And I want to celebrate that because we're all one connected family of fans.
Don't give a shit about yet.
Well, maybe that's what it is. I just haven't been exposed to enough of it. So, starting today and going forward, we are going to have a little section in here that we are going to call the Manga-Raman section, or the Manga-Raman, because, Southern Fried.
Manga-Raman.
Basically, we are going to give Jerry and Sean, when he's here, a segment to talk about things that they are fans of that maybe Craig and I don't know that much about or haven't been able to tap into, or just in general aren't interested in. And that's fine, because we're interested in things that they're not. So we want to kind of share this space. So what you got for us this week, Jerry?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and apologize because I don't have a great format for this just yet. And
You're not
I was
gonna do
really
the whole thing in
hoping
Japanese?
No, not yet. Not yet. That's next week. Just give me a week to learn the language. We saw how well I did in 4 days with one little phrase. And I was kind of hoping Sean would be here so we could just kind of bounce stuff off of each other.
Well, if you talk about the three that I know anything about, you count them
Yeah.
off.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what I was going to bring up. My history with anime started in the 90s, as so many other people, because it was a really good time for anime. You had Toonami on Cartoon Network that had a bunch of great shows. They had Rurouni Kenshin, DBZ, even Sailor Moon. I watched Sailor Moon. Not a lot of people are going to admit that. My mom actually watched Sailor Moon whenever her and my grandparents were stationed over in Okinawa. But growing up out in the middle of nowhere, basically, not having a whole lot of friends that live out that way, it was always a nice thing to get into. It was either that or video games.
Right.
Yeah, just kind of started off with the basic, really popular stuff that's really old nowadays. Eventually stumbled into a show called One Piece on Fox. We didn't have WB growing up. We had Fox, so all of our Saturday morning cartoons was
Right.
that. So you got, instead of getting like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff like that, we got Digimon, Shaman Kings, One Piece.
Now, were you like me and grew up out in the middle of nowhere without satellite and cable and got 2, 4, 7, 11, sometimes 38 and 16?
We had a satellite, but the only TV that was hooked up to it was in the living room. So if I wanted to watch TV in my room, I was literally just watching the fuzzy, like Fox morning stuff.
Yeah,
that
was my childhood.
So fast forward, so many years into the future, still have my love for anime, but I wasn't really as big into it. It seemed I had one point in my life where somebody showed me some YouTube stuff, because I was more into like, I want everything to be like a period piece, like samurai and stuff like that, and I want it to be super serious because I don't want a lot of comedy in my stuff. But somebody kind of opened me up to this fight scene from One Piece. They were like, yeah, check this out, and it was just completely badass. So I think at this time it was probably around 2012 or so, and if you don't know anything about One Piece, it started back in '98, I believe, the anime was, and it's been going ever since. And one of the cool things about anime and manga, they release every week. where you'll get like comic books will either have seasons or they'll release, you know,
Monthly or every 2 weeks.
or bi-weekly.
Or bi-monthly.
But for manga especially, it usually they'll probably do about 3 weeks and then they'll take a week off and then they'll do 3 weeks. So it's like having your favorite creator, and it's usually one person that's working on this story. I mean, he's got editors and stuff.
Yeah.
But you've got one person that's working on the art and the story of this. And One Piece was like that kind of grail for me for the longest time. Like it was just really, really awesome. Like it gave you so many feels. But anyway,
Why don't you give us a rundown, like a basic short synopsis of what One Piece is for people who are listening at home who maybe haven't connected with it?
So it's a lot of things, but the easiest way to explain it is it's essentially a pirate anime series, but it's not your typical pirates that you know from, you know,
Swashbucklers and...
It's more of like a pirate fantasy series based in a fantasy world where you have these people and they have crews and they're all searching for this big treasure called the One Piece. And it was a treasure that was left behind by one of the Pirate King.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's trying to find this treasure to become the Pirate King. You start off with, you know, one character, Monkey D. Luffy, and they do a lot of team building in it.
Right.
So you start off with just one, and then they build up. Eventually they have, I think, 9 crew members at current. And, you know, everybody has their own job. You have a swordsman, you have a doctor, you have a chef, navigator, shipwright, all these different types of jobs. But it's just this show that is really, like, it gives you a lot of emotions sometimes, just about friendship and being left behind. People would joke all day long about having a tragic backstory, but some of the One Piece backstories are some really, really tragic stuff.
So yeah, this is one that Jerry actually got me into.
Right.
And I will say right here, I don't read a lot of manga. I think I read 2 manga, sometimes 3, and I watch 1 anime.
Mm-hmm.
And that 1 anime I watch is One Piece. And I will tell you right now, if Sandman is my number 1 comic book series ever, One Piece is my number 2.
Yeah.
It's that good of a series.
You actually have some of the characters tattooed on your leg, don't
actually do. I have Luffy and Zoro on my leg, and eventually we'll have the whole crew on my leg.
Very cool.
And that's usually just kind of how I take it whenever I get into something that I really enjoy. Is I want to spread it around, and I want everybody to enjoy it. And literally, you could probably find 10 or 15 people that I've gotten into this series that have gotten other. I'm just like, hey, you love it so much and you want to thank me for it, just get other people into it, you know. Of course, at this point it's kind of hard because they're up around the 800 or 900 episode mark.
It is, and we're not just talking
daunting.
about in the manga. You're talking about also hundreds of episodes of the anime.
Anime's at 800. I think.
And that's kind of how they do whenever they're doing manga anime conversions. There's been stories in the past where they'll do a manga for it, and then the manga will be coming out slower. Like One Piece comes from a magazine that's serialized in Japan called Shonen Jump.
Yep.
And it's for teenagers mostly, and all the stuff that they print out comes out weekly. They have other manga series that are printed in other magazines. They've got, you know, stuff for younger kids. They've got stuff for girls, and then they've got like adult stuff.
Tentacle porn.
Yeah. More on that later. I actually picked up like a lot of different
Tentacle porn.
different manga issues while I was over there.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Like, I don't know, I just like seeing all the, and one of my other big obsessions is Kamen Rider and Super Sentai. They actually print a manga for some of the Kamen Rider series too, which is great.
So and just to clarify again to people like me, who if I didn't know you, I wouldn't know this. When you say Kamen Rider and Super Sentai, you're talking a lot about what we might know as Power Rangers.
Yeah, the Power Rangers, you know, is a lie essentially, and it is America Saban basically robbed Japan from their Super Sentai, which is a squad thing. Mighty Morphin is based off of like their 8th or 10th series. Don't get me wrong, I love Power Rangers. I grew up with Power Rangers too. this isn't Power Rangers segment, but they have a whole line of, live action characters in costume superheroes. This is basically their superheroes. But going back onto manga and anime and everything, you can actually, any comic book store, you can order. You can get put on reserve lists and everything like that. I've gotten so many people, like My Hero Academia is my biggest new thing that I'm pushing, because it's got, about the same amount of feels and character advancement and stuff like that as One Piece had, but it's set in a superhero world setting.
Right.
So...
Well, and if I'm not wrong, if you look in like the previews catalog, you like you said, you can get these through that. You can get put on a pull list for it. You can get them to order it for you.
Yeah, and they have a Viz section in there and everything. And
Viz is the publisher that publishes most Japanese manga in America.
Yeah.
Well, and here in America specifically, here in the United States, a lot of your old heads, a lot of your guys who are just comic book guys, they kind of shit on manga and anime. I've never understood, even as somebody who's not into manga and anime, I've never understood the elitist attitude that some of these guys take when it comes to mangas. It's all sequential storytelling.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
It's all. I mean, a lot of these books they're black and white. It's a different style. It's a different art, but it's
you
all
can call it
sequential.
manga, but it's comic book.
Yeah, it's-
I mean, it's straight up.
the biggest takeaway from it is the different genres that they have in Japan. The biggest thing that I've gathered, the difference between comic books and manga, and somebody actually pointed it out, is Japan doesn't have a lot of crime. There's not like a criminal aspect or anything like that like there is in America. So, in American comics, we have villains that are trying to rob places and murder people and stuff like that. Well, and a lot of manga stuff, like if you look at Godzilla, for instance, Godzilla is essentially a natural disaster
Pretty much.
going through. And that's basically what all of those other monsters, they're all based off, because he's based off of the atomic bomb. So a lot of their stuff is based off of, forces of nature and stuff, like that.
An entire different cultural fear aspect.
And,
like tsunamis and other countries nuking them. Don't know how that happened, but
But yeah, and then there's also the huge adult aspect in it. They have a lot more adult-oriented stuff. And
tentacle porn.
Yeah, tentacle porn all day. Send me your hentai folders.
And one of the things when you sit down is somebody that watched a lot of anime, or not anime, but a lot of cartoons growing up. There were some anime in there, like Voltron and Speed Racer and things like that, but you didn't necessarily know it was anime.
Yeah.
So then when you go to watch anime, and it's such a stylized thing that to me, it was such a difference in what I was used to watching. It took me a while to get used to that style.
Right.
So I actually a while back attempted to start watching One Piece because off your suggestion, and I used Hulu. Hulu has, I think, most of the episodes. Only a few of them are dubbed. Most of them you have to read the subtitles. I have no problem doing that. I just don't like watching TV. I'm not a big TV watcher, so that's one of the reasons I didn't follow through. I got through, I think, 50 something episodes, which is insane when you're thinking about how, number one, that's a lot of episodes, but in the grand catalog of everything One Piece, that's not a lot of anything.
But the episodes are only like 15 minutes long.
They're
By the
short.
time you cut out the intro and the outro.
They're short. But it is a very good series. I will say that one show that was done in the style of anime that I have really, really enjoyed is the Castlevania from Netflix.
So
that was super good. I'll promote that all day long. If you haven't seen that, absolutely go do it. It's worth watching. It's a lot of fun. It's done by one of my favorite comic writers, Warren Ellis. So yeah, super good.
So if you guys enjoyed this segment, let us know, because we are going to, hopefully Sean will be here next week, and Jerry and Sean can bounce some ideas off of each other.
Yeah, Jerry's life depends on you guys letting us know you enjoyed this. If not, we're killing him. Not just cutting him off the show, we're actually going to kill him. And we're going to drag him out in
So
the
let
woods.
us know if you like Jerry, and if you want to hear more about manga and anime.
The title of this episode is a gun to Jerry's head.
Yeah, pretty much.
If you don't like anime.
No, man, it's good.
Manga-Raman. I think that's what we're
Manga-Raman,
going
man.
with.
Whatever. Sure.
No, I'm really glad we have this section now because, like I said, it's an area of fandom that not all of us are familiar with, and we're going to add other areas. We want to bridge some gaps.
And I'm hoping to pick up
essentially.
some more manga and anime that I should be reading and watching.
I read my first manga that I've ever read last week.
You did.
And that's one of the cool things about it is you could read it on an app. Like that's probably the easiest way to do it because they don't print Shonen Jump out here anymore.
Right.
So they have Shonen Jump Alpha that you could pay for, and it's like, I don't know, $2 an issue if that, and you get like 6 or 7 different series, and you can just read on a tablet or phone.
Yeah.
I definitely recommend doing that because, like we've always kind of said, if you want more of that stuff out here, you should put the money into it or get the
Absolutely.
manga volumes.
Crunchyroll, I think, as well.
Yeah.
If you pay for Crunchyroll, you can read manga on there as well.
Yep. Put your money where your mouth is. I hate people who pirate comics. That's just my personal thing. A lot of people are like, "Oh, it's just not that big of a deal to me." It's one of the worst things you can do as a fan.
Well, I think Crunchyroll is $12 a month or something. I mean, just buy it and get your. I pay for it, and I don't even watch that much on it.
And even
anymore,
Netflix. Netflix has a lot of great anime on there.
Well, again, thank you for opening up this segment, and we're curious to see what you come back with next year. Next week, not year.
It's going to be all hentai. That's the entire segment.
Hentai is tentacle porn, people.
Hentai is not tentacle porn. Hentai is anime porn, sir. You uncultured swine.
Okay.
But it can be tentacle
It's
porn.
tentacle porn.
Tentacle porn is a subcategory in hentai. That's it. That's it. We're moving on to the next segment.
If our friends over at the Long Box are listening, and God damn it, I hope you are. Hashtag Tentacle Gang. So, all right, man. We read some really, really good comics this week.
We did.
I am super pumped about this. Gonna jump into our next little bit, Smothered, Covered, and Comicked. I'm super excited about it.
And there was some great stuff out this week.
There really was. Like, it was really, really hard for me personally to pick out my book of the week.
I had the same problem. I went back and forth between Royal City by Jeff Lemire. He does the art and the writing on that. And Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps. I ended up deciding to go with Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps.
Nice.
And the reason I did that was there's actually one more book in the story arc of Royal City. So I'm going to kind of talk about that entire story arc when that finishes next month. So... And the other reason is the Green Lantern books have been really hit and miss for me lately. I'm just going to be 100% honest. It's been, sometimes I'll just kind of skim through them and kind of figure out what the story is and go on. This week, it's issue number 39. Of course, it's published by DC, written by Robert Venditti, drawn by Rafa Sandoval, and colored by Tomoyu Mori. And
Sandoval's good.
yeah. That's one of the things I'm going to talk about in this book. It's some of the best Green Lantern art I've ever seen.
It's really
let alone in the past since Jeff Johns left. It's really just some beautiful art. This book starts with Hal Jordan's been captured in the last issue. He was captured by General Zod and his crew. And he sends Kyle Rayner back with his ring, so Zod can't get his ring. Kyle Rayner's going to go get help. He's got both his ring and Hal Jordan's ring on. Well, those of you that know anything about Kyle Rayner, he's the most mellow of all of the Green Lanterns. It's really hard to get any sort of reaction from him on anything.
He's my favorite Lantern.
Unless you know...
We're going to talk about that.
Unless you find his girlfriend in a refrigerator, then you get a reaction from him. But...
You guys talked about that one episode.
Yeah. So Kyle ends up back at Green Lantern Corps base. I think it's OA again. I don't know. They blow it up and rebuild it all the time.
True.
I think they're on OA.
It's like Avengers Mansion.
Or maybe they're on.
Is it Mogo right now?
I think it's Mogo.
Last time I was
OA 's
reading,
gone.
they were stationed on Mogo.
Yeah, so they're on Mogo. So he shows up and he's got Kyle's ring and his ring and Hal's ring, and they've got him locked in containment because he's like overflowing with willpower. And he has started taking on some of the aspects of Hal Jordan's personality. And he's just like got basically like Hal Jordan Tourette syndrome.
So he's a dick.
No, he's yelling out
We're not
stuff
talking
like
about Guy Gardner, bro.
he's like hollering out things like, I'm pumped up and ready to fight. And he's like, wait, that's not me. You know, so it's some of the best comedic moments in it are him like realizing he's talking about as Hal, and then guys going, oh, you just keep it up. You got some cojones now, you know, let's go fight them. And so then, of course, Jon Stewart's wanting to follow the protocol and go to because a couple issues ago, the Guardians are like, let us do our job again. Jon Stewart's like, okay, I'm going to give it back to you, but I'm going to be watching you. You're going to make the right calls. You're going to do the right thing, or else we're going to go right back to me running this thing.
Right.
And they're like, okay, just give us that chance. Well, he goes to them. They sit on their hands while they're trying to decide what to do. In the meantime, Hal's being tortured and, you know, maybe dying. And Guy does what Guy does and goes and rounds up all of the crew.
Is the best Green Lantern. Obviously.
Yeah. Guy goes and he gets all the buddies, Kilowog, and all of them that will break the rules with him.
All the mother poozers.
Yep, and gets Kyle, and off they go to save Hal, and John Stewart looks up and goes, "Yeah, I was wondering what was taking you so long," because he knew Guy was going to do what Guy does.
Right.
So it was a really fun Green Lantern book, and beautiful art, beautifully colored, and maybe my best favorite Green Lantern book since the Jeff John era.
Nice.
That's good because that's almost as long as it's been since I've read it.
Yeah.
When New 52 was writing Green Lantern, I wanted to stick with it because I love the Jeff Johns stuff. I loved somewhat of what they were doing with it, but it was event after event after event, and I was just getting really burned out on it.
Well, it's been less events in the Rebirth era. There's been less Green Lantern events. It's still written by Robert Venditti, so it's the same guy that's been writing it since New 52. Him and Van Jensen. Van was doing Green Lantern Corps, and he was doing Green Lanterns. Venditti was doing Green Lanterns. So it's the same guys who's been in charge of it, of the Green Lantern series since Jeff Johns left. But I feel like it's finally getting its legs again. So I'm interested again.
I've never been one to get on the Green Lanterns ongoing. I generally don't care much for space.
I don't
in either
except for
Marvel
Green
and
Lantern.
Cosmic, in my Marvel or
You're
DC.
gonna love my book then.
Well, I mean, it doesn't say it's not good. It's just not my forte.
Right.
I tend to like keeping feet on the ground or at least flying in the air. My favorite Green Lantern series was the Brightest Day, Darkest Night storylines.
Yeah.
I think those are probably some of the most iconic. If you want to get the heart of what the Lantern Corps is about, those books nail it.
If you want to get the heart of Green Lantern, go back to the original Green Lantern Rebirth, not this Green Lantern Rebirth, the one that happened in 2004 or 5.
Yeah.
That Jeff Johns
man.
wrote.
Rebirth and Recharge were the other two.
Yeah, it brings Hal Jordan back into continuity. He had been gone for a long time. Introduces Parallax. It introduces the reason why yellow's been a problem to the Green Lanterns all these years. And it is, and then read that run. Read Green Lantern Corps, read Green Lanterns. I think Green Lanterns was 100 and something issues, and Green Lantern Corps was 50 something issues.
I think they were only like 10 issues behind each other. I believe so.
Maybe, but I think Green Lantern's Corps started a little bit after. Maybe I'm wrong, but anyways, read those two runs because that is the best era of Green Lantern ever.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny because I'm a huge Green Lantern fan, and I was growing up. It was one of my favorite. It was so funny because I started on that run because I was just kind of off of comics for a while. I just kind of got burnt out on some Marvel stuff. I was just basically picking up Corps, and I was like, oh man, I'm really loving this. And then Sinestro Corps started, and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta read the Green Lantern shit.
It all
that goes with
crossed
this.
over, yeah.
Man, ask Matt, because literally I was at his shop every week going through back issues, finding all the issues of Green Lantern and all the parts to Corps, to the Sinestro Corps War.
Which shop was that?
It was Kapow Comics for Arkansas. It was
That's never gonna get old.
and then following that, like I bought every single fucking variant when Blackest Night started. Every variant, every offshoot. Like I was an addict.
It was
at that
it was a fantastic series, and I grew up on Super Friends.
Yeah.
So those were our superheroes that we were introduced to as kids, and of course, everybody picked their favorites. I always picked Green Lantern. He was always my favorite. Don't know why, but he was. So growing up, I didn't read a lot of Green Lantern comics, but when I got back into comics as an adult, it was the Jeff Johns Green Lantern comics that really sold comics to me again.
I don't dislike, so don't send me hate mail. I'm not drawn to Superman. I'm not drawn to Cyborg, to Flash, to these gods among men. I'm drawn to Batman because at the end of the day, he's a man. And he, his superpower is money, but also intelligence.
Well, you can take the ring off of any of the Green Lanterns, and Guy Gardner and Hal Jordan are still going to fight you to the death.
Absolutely.
I mean, Guy Gardner fought Atrocitus.
Atrocitus.
Yeah. So Guy Gardner fought Atrocitus to a standstill. Actually beat him without his ring on. And that's saying something.
It is.
And again, it's the humanity of these characters. So now I don't necessarily love the two current Earth Guardians.
I was going to ask, are they in the series?
They're not in the Hal Jordan book. They're in the Green Lanterns book, and that's Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz. Nothing. I want to be real careful on how I say this because it's not the characters themselves. I don't like their personalities.
Okay.
She's grew up feared. She wouldn't leave her house. She was
agoraphobic.
Agoraphobic.
She's not, but she's not from this universe either,
Yeah,
right?
she is.
Is she really?
Yeah, she was always from this universe. She got the ring from the
That's
Forever
right, the
Evil
power
universe,
ring.
the power ring, which feeds on fear.
Yeah.
Well, during Rebirth, she was able to take control of that ring and actually turned it into a will ring.
Nice.
It's been a struggle for me following that book because, number one, a Green Lantern stands for certain things. She is the opposite of all those things. Now she's getting better at being all of those things. Simon Baz is a combination of the worst qualities of Guy Gardner and Hal Jordan, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you took their worst qualities and made a character, you end up with Simon Baz.
Yep.
I wanted better out of him. When they first introduced Simon Baz, I love that character. I don't love who he is right now. And I think it's the way he's being written more than anything else.
I was going to say, I'm familiar with those characters through the Justice League book, and I really have enjoyed their arc. I actually like her. I like Jessica more than I like maybe
I agree with that 100%.
many of the other ones. For the simple fact that she was agoraphobic, her fear, and fear is the natural enemy of will. And she's had to deal with that. And there's been situations to where she succumbed to fear, to where she couldn't manifest her Green Lantern abilities because of her fear, and she's had to work through that. And it's been fun watching her grow as a person. But I do think that they need to get past the growth spurt for both of those people and just get them to where they are, who they are, and we can recognize what they're doing.
So the thing that I really liked about her character was when she was learning how to get over her fear is Barry, the Flash, was helping her.
They actually hooked up, didn't they?
For like one issue.
That's all it takes.
I mean, when you're the Flash, apparently. Barry Allen really took her under his wing and was trying to help her. And then they just got away with that when they did Rebirth, and then it was just her and Simon. And Hal just says, hey, okay, guys, I've got stuff to take care of. You're now in charge of Earth. Again, you have 4 experienced Green Lanterns out in space, and he doesn't send one of those 4 back to help teach those 2. And I mean, it's his home planet.
They've always had an overabundance, and
currently have 6 humans, 6 Earth humans in the Green Lantern,
and like we never know anything else about that sector. Was it 2814?
Yeah,
I think is what the Earth sector is. I don't know. It's just always because I liked it whenever. Who did they have? I think it was Hal Jordan and John Stewart that were designated for the Earth, and then Kyle Rayner, Guy Gardner for the actual space.
So anyways, that was my book of the week. I hope y'all enjoy it. Get out and read it.
Yeah, I may have to pick that up because that's not a book I'm reading.
And it's got General Zod in it.
That's what's really cool is it's got that crossover.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's my turn to go next. Since you went DC, I went Marvel for a couple of different reasons.
We know the real reason.
Well, we're going to get to that. The book I read for my book of the week was Avengers number 682. Now, right now, the Avengers storyline is coming out weekly, like every week as part of a No Surrender thing it's called. It's being written by Al Ewing, Jim Zub, and Mark Waid. This particular issue was drawn by Mr. Sean Isaacs, I believe is how it's pronounced. Now, if you listen to a few episodes back, this is the same guy that we did the Twitter question and answer bit with. And he allowed me to read some of the questions on here and talk to him. So I told you guys he was an up-and-comer, that he had some stuff coming in the works. This was one of them. So it's, for a new artist, he drawing several issues of an Avengers book, which was the flagship of Marvel. That's incredible. In my opinion, it's the flagship of Marvel.
Well, of course it is.
It's also colored by Mr. David Curiel. This book has been so fun. So let me give you a little bit of backstory on what's been happening in the series. There are 2 cosmic beings known as the Grandmaster and the Challenger, and they've kind of hijacked the Earth. And by that, what I mean is they've moved it out of its orbit. It's kind of stationary in one place, and they're using it as a proverbial chessboard in this grand cosmic game that they're playing. It's almost like capture the flag, honestly.
Yeah.
They each have co-opted their own team of superpowered individuals. They're kind of all positioned as being villains just by the nature of the juxtaposition to the Avengers, but some of these characters are not villainous per se. They're just from other places and they're being used, and they know the stakes, so they're doing what they have to do. The goal of each team is to claim a certain number of these obelisks that the Grandmaster and the Challenger have thrown down to Earth. They've landed at different spaces: New Mexico, Antarctica, And that's, these two teams are supposed to clash and they're, capture the flag.
Yeah.
They get it, and whoever ends up with the biggest number wins this grand cosmic game. And now there are some stakes for the Grandmaster and the Challenger. They're mentioned in a previous issue. Go check that out. They're not in this issue, so I don't really need to get into it that much. The Grandmaster has chosen the Lethal Legion, which is a reconceptualized team from Marvel history made up of some old characters and some new characters. If you check out the back matter of, I think it's issue 679, might be 680, they actually list who these characters are, list where they were conceptualized, if they're new, if they're old, if there's some retakes on some old characters throughout Marvel history. It actually puts that in the back matter, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
It gives you an idea of who these people are. Because a lot of times we get these new characters, or especially if they're characters that are just going to be tangential and not related, they'll just throw them in there, they'll get them killed, and then they don't matter anymore.
Right.
They give you the history. They give you the names, the backgrounds. The Challengers team is going to be familiar to anyone who read Jonathan Hickman's run of the Avengers and New Avengers, or who read the lead up to, I believe it was Secret Wars. This is the Black Order, the Cull Obsidian. These guys, they first debuted in the Infinity story, and they're basically Thanos' generals. Mm-hmm. They are some nasty, nasty, nasty people. Corvus Glaive, his wife Proxima Midnight, an entire group of these guys. They just do some despicable things. And so these two teams that have been chosen are meant to clash with each other on Earth over these obelisks. The Avengers aren't actually supposed to be a factor. They're like rocks. If you play paintball, they're hurdles. They're stuff that just exist on the field that get in your way. If you play video games, they're supposed to be NPCs. They're just there to get in the way and kind of mess things up a little bit to the grand game. But they're Avengers. So, they're used to being the underdog. They're used to not being, to having these cosmic things happen to them. And to have to fight their way up, when they face these challenges, they take the upper hand. And that's kind of what's happening here. The problem is they don't know how the game works. Originally on this team, when they moved the Earth out of orbit, several of the heroes have been frozen in place. They take people out of the game because the people that the Challenger and the Grandmaster are smart. They know the Avengers. They know what they're doing. And so they're like, okay, this is Earth. We've seen what it's done before. So we can't have all of these people, or they might mess up our game. So they freeze a number of them. One in particular, they freeze the Vision. Scarlet Witch uses some magic to unfreeze the Vision, but it transfers it over to Quicksilver, who is right in the middle of a battle, and freezes him in place, and he gets the ever-loving shit beat out of him. It's beautiful because Quicksilver's a prick. But they're starting to realize the mechanics of what they're doing. So in this, the Avengers actually claim one of the obelisks. They're not supposed to. Like I said, they're basically furniture. But they do. They claim one of the obelisks. Specifically, it's the Human Torch who does it. And all the rest of the Avengers see is them vaporize. They don't know what's happening. They don't know what's going on. So all they see is the Human Torch vaporize. They think he's dead. Now, in truth, if you read the series, you know he's not. They're in space with the Grandmaster and the Challenger. They're hanging out in a crystal. They're just off the board.
See, I didn't realize that till this issue.
That it took a little bit to get there. Because the writers wanted you to have this suspense. They wanted you to think that there were part of the things in comics when you deal with superhero deaths is, number one, there's no real stakes. You know that it's, Superman's not going to die unless it's the death of Superman. You know he's going to come back. They wanted the stakes to feel real, and that's the challenge as a writer to how do you keep the audience engaged, put a little fear into them, but also not make these world-changing things. That's part of being a writer, and they do it really well here. So the different characters, they all see the Human Torch get vaporized, specifically Rogue, who's been in kind of a relationship with him on and off, and so she's pissed. She takes Corvus Glaive out.
Yeah.
Like, Corvus Glaive is done. She murders that motherfucker.
Yeah.
In the best Rogue style, and she does it in the Rogue way where she sucks his power out and uses it against him. So she's Corvus Glaiving it up all over the place. Corvus Glaive is gone. His wife is not happy about this situation. As you know, you might not be.
Yeah.
And so there's a little bit of a conflict there.
Right.
But they're starting to figure out how the game works. There is the challenge of, okay, if we're going to do this, if we're going to save the Earth, we have to sacrifice ourselves. Make that ultimate sacrifice. That's where they get out to. Some of the teams, they're split up into 3 groups. They're figuring out how do we, keep them from getting it, but also don't die. The other ones are like, no, I'm just going to die. So in this particular issue, the story opens in 1872. It's kind of a flashback. You open up to the Valley of Doom. There's a bit of history of Red Wolf.
It was so good.
Yeah. Oh, I love the character Red Wolf. They've done great things with him. In current continuity, Red Wolf is a time-displaced Native American hero. He carries the mantle of the Cheyenne. He's got the basics of superpowers, super strength, super hearing, super smell, super sight. He's also a super tracker and tactician, though. He can see the connectivity between
He's got
things.
the powers of a wolf.
He sees how things fit back together. In the book, after they give you this little glimpse into his history before he gets sucked into our time now, but then they bounce back to modern time. And Red Wolf shows up with Hawkeye in the midst of this giant melee where a third of the Avengers team are doing battle with the Lethal Legion over New Mexico for one of these obelisks. The Wasp, Voodoo, Wonder Man, Scarlet Witch, the Falcon, they're all trying to figure out what to do and how not to die, and also how to save the Earth. Meanwhile, in Antarctica, the other group of Avengers, led by Rogue, who, again, has absorbed Corvus Glaive's power, and she's hanging out with Thor, Hercules, and Lightning, and they're out for blood. They believe Johnny Storm is dead. They're done. They're done. They don't care at this point. But they are stuck in Antarctica, and while all of them are flyers, it's a long trip from Antarctica to anywhere not frozen. So Lightning, can move at the speed of light. So he's going to bounce back to the Avengers Mansion and check on this mysterious new hero that has been introduced in this series. She's known as the Voyager. I think Val is her name. I have fan theories about who this person might actually be. And he's going to go check on her because she had been transporting people. She needed to go recharge.
And she can transport a few times. And
Yeah.
She has to recharge.
And then she has to go rest up for just a few
and
minutes.
sometimes, it's like 2 minutes and she's ready to go.
Yeah.
But she can't just keep bouncing.
Yeah, she's got a limit to her power. So yeah, Lightning's like, let me run back there, see if she can come pick us up. If not, I'll get a Quinjet, and Uber this shit. We'll figure this stuff out.
It is pretty much.
By the way, if you're not familiar with Lightning, you need to get to. This character is amazing. They used to call him Living Lightning. It's just Lightning for short now. Great character. Yeah. They hadn't done a lot with him up until the No Surrender thing. It's been really fun reading him.
Is he a newer character?
Relatively.
Yeah.
Relatively.
I cannot. It sounds familiar, but I don't know what he.
Yeah, Google him if nothing else, because it'll give you a little bit of the story. So back at the mansion, Beast and Nadia Pym are actually trying to keep Jarvis alive. Jarvis has gotten really sick. Now, there was a stupid bit in one of the first No Surrender issues whenever he first got sick, and they called it the Avengers virus or some crap.
Well, they're not 100% wrong.
No, they're not.
Come to
But
find out.
it was some of the language that he used. I was
Yeah.
just like, okay, that's a little hokey. But what it turns out is Jarvis has fell victim to an alien pathogen that's been brought back through, the Avengers go off. They bring, the whole War of the Worlds thing, where they come back and it's the littlest
the
thing.
concussion he received in the first issue set it off.
Yeah, it lowered his immune system. Now, in this story, they actually take some blood samples from Nadia Pym, who was part of that group that went off, and they find the pathogen, and they figure out what antibodies her body is naturally producing to fight it. Beast is going to use that because he's Hank McCoy
Right.
to develop a serum or to develop an antibody, a vaccine for this, and to save Jarvis because you can't take. I like one of the things about the cinematic universe that gets me is that Jarvis is an AI inside Tony's suits. I don't like that. I grew up with the Avengers. I love Jarvis. Jarvis is my Alfred.
Yeah.
You can't have the Avengers without Jarvis, and that's one of the things that the films suffer from, in my opinion. They need that character. They need that very human father figure because in a lot of ways, he's who connects the Avengers.
He absolutely does. He feeds them. He's the humanity of the Avengers.
And that's something that this book is taken very seriously, and I'm glad to see them do that because for the past few years, Avengers, they haven't shown the love and the dedication to the Jarvis character they need to. Again, you can't have Bruce Wayne without Alfred. You just can't. It does not work. It does not work well. You can't have Avengers Mansion without Jarvis.
Yeah.
You can't have this team because then you're just dealing with people who want to do their own things, and in so many ways, he's the one who ground them. And
Again, he's the humanity of the team. When you're talking about people with such enormous amounts of power, they forget what it's like to be human.
Yeah,
but Jarvis gives them that humanity.
When Tony and Cap butt heads philosophically, Jarvis brings them back together. When Thor forgets the Donald Blake side of his persona and is just like, I'm a lightning god, Jarvis grounds him. You can't do this without it. And so to see Jarvis laying in a hospital bed, I realize, folks, these are just funny books. I realize that these are narratives, but when you've grown up with these characters, especially characters like Jarvis, he's like a grandfather figure, man. And when you see him laying there in the hospital and you don't know if he's going to make it or not, that shit hurts. That shit hits you right in the heart, and that's what good writing does. So I've really, really, I hope he gets better, but congratulations to the writers because they did what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because it does. You see this man laying in this hospital bed, and you're just like, yeah, get this pathogen gone. It's the actual evil here. I don't really care that the Cull Obsidian is wrecking shop and that Earth might get destroyed. You fix Jarvis right now. You get him up out of that bed. So you're dealing with that. Then the book bounces back to New Mexico. Red Wolf has been watching the Avengers in battle with the Lethal Legion, and he's noticed that, you know, if these characters, if touching this obelisk, if claiming it kills them, then logically you might be willing to sacrifice yourself, but you're going to be hesitant about it. None of them are hesitant about it. They're all just clamoring. They want it like it's a prize, like it's something big. And he's like, they wouldn't be doing that if it actually killed them. None of these people, like he's watching them defend each other from getting hurt from the Avengers. He's like, if they're defending each other because it hurts, then they would be like, there's something there. Mm-hmm. He realizes how the game is played. He realizes that it's not killing him. So he doesn't have time to explain it, but he tells Hawkeye, trust me, we're friends, trust me. I know what I'm doing. And he's like, clear a path, cover me. And he goes after it. He goes after the obelisk, jumps on it, and basically ties up the scoreboard. Yeah. So these characters, the Avengers, these characters who were not supposed to have an actual stake in the game, who were just supposed to be obstacles, or they've tied up the game. And they've messed up the Grandmaster and the Challenger's plan. Right. Just some good stuff. Now this last part is why this is my book of the week. It might be my book of the year.
Here we go.
If you know me, you know that my favorite character out of anything, anywhere, anytime is Bruce Banner Hulk. I love the Hulk. He's been my hero since I was a kid. Mark Waid writing him really got me back into the character. Peter David, all that stuff, just solid, smashy gold. Or green, I don't know what you want to call it.
If Roger or the Hulk were hanging off the side of a cliff and you could only save one, who would it be?
I would jump because I'm not living in a world without either one of them. That's the third option. Bruce Banner's been dead.
Grab both of their hands and say, let's go.
Yeah.
We're dying together.
Bruce Banner's been dead for a little bit. There's some backstory with that. Hawkeye killed him. I personally blame Carol Danvers. Fuck her.
They touch on that in this book.
They do. They hit that a little bit. And they also let you know where you can go find out what happened. I think there's a little editor's note. If nothing else, it's the Civil War timeline, the Civil War II thing that just happened. Not by any means the best event, but they did some interesting things. One of them is they took my boy off the board, which led to the Totally Awesome Hulk. Greg Pak's writing it right now. Go read it. It's fun stuff. The Hulk is back, guys. Bruce Banner's back. They show him climbing out of a grave in New Mexico. Now he's not. He's the Hulk, man. This is like he's pure rage at this point.
I think it even says you can't kill rage.
No, and because they're coming out with the Immortal Hulk. It's a book that's launching. I spoke about it earlier in the news section. It's getting revived. But in this version, this is absolutely Bruce Banner Hulk.
Yes.
But he's being used by the Challenger.
Yep.
This is the Challenger's coup de grace.
Yep. He was the hidden token.
Yep.
So the Challenger brought him back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
On the last page, and all you see
that
is,
answers something I was going to say.
If you've
How is he
been
back? Yeah.
Well,
if you've been reading the series week to week, on the last page they first show you where he's buried.
Yeah.
And then they show you a fist. And then they're like, and now
Smile, eyes, yeah.
Well,
now you're seeing him full green and fleshy.
That answers something that I was going to ask because you mentioned Corvus Glaive, and I just got caught up in Jeff Lemire's Thanos, and Thanos murders the shit out of Corvus Glaive in like that first trade paperback. So I was like, how the fuck is he still alive? But I understand
it's
with
comic books.
well, I mean, yeah, of course, but like with them bringing those people up in Avengers Infinity War, it was bound to happen.
Well, and so Corvus Glaive, when you go back to the Infinity series, and you go back to the Secret Wars with the Illuminati, and when you had these two groups clashing, those guys died then. When the Secret Wars happened, it smashed all the universes together, and that gave all these creators free reign to pick and choose who they're bringing back. And that's this isn't the Cull Obsidian that was in that series. It's the same characters, yes, but it's kind of like DC. You get 52 versions of Superman. You get 52 versions of Wonder Woman, and you 52 versions of Batman.
Right.
It's that same concept. So this is a Cull Obsidian, Corvus Glaive, Proxima Midnight, all those guys from a different universe that have been brought over here.
And how many more incursions are we going to have between now and Thanos in the future?
So that's the story. I love it. Like I said, the trio of Ewing, Zub, and Wade are doing a killer job.
I want to talk about Red Wolf for just a second.
Do it, dude.
So you would never know it looking at me, but I am Native American. I am not going to sit here and say I identify as Native American. I wasn't raised in a reservation. I wasn't raised I don't have a card, but I'm Native American. My family's Native American. We don't have the card because, my great-grandfather, when he married my grandmother, there was a stigma to marrying an Indian woman, and he didn't want that stigma. Mm-hmm. So he didn't want us to have the cards. So, that decision's affected all of us on down the road. Again, I'm not trying to say I identify as a Native American, but I feel that representation is important. Mm-hmm. And this is absolutely one area that is not represented well in comic books. There's 3 or 4, a handful of them out there, and they get play here and there. Red Wolf was fantastic in this book.
So good.
So good in this book. And the last little miniseries I did of Red Wolf was not great.
Yeah.
It really wasn't. It brought him into current continuity. That's all it really did. Now let's do something with him.
I hope so.
You've got him in the Avengers. I don't think he's going to be in the new Avengers title that's coming on after this, but do something with him. He is a superhero. He's got all the powers of a wolf. He's got the tactician abilities. Give him something and write him as a superhero. Give him that book.
What are his what's his power set?
It's super strength, sight, smell, hearing. It's basically all the benefits of a werewolf without the negatives of a werewolf.
It's almost like Jerry wasn't listening when I was talking about it earlier.
Almost.
It's
almost like
a lot of times whenever you I glaze that. Anyway, it kind of reminds me of Warpath and and Thunderbird a little bit.
It's a lot of that. Warpath is a mutant.
He got his from being a chief's son or something.
Yeah, he carries the mantle of the Cheyenne.
Yeah.
And that's like when I said that's an actual thing. The mantle of a Cheyenne is the thing. It's kind of like with, I think it's White Tiger or whatever, where she has the necklace.
Or Vixen.
Yeah, it's that same concept. And that gives him, like I said, super speed, super sight, super hearing.
Basically think Black Panther except Native American.
A lot of ways. It is that. But yeah, you're right. You have Thunderbird and Warpath. Warpath is actually, talking about representation, Warpath is one of the main characters in the Weapon X book right now. So you've got him. I would love them to do something with Red Wolf and with Forge, because if I'm not mistaken, Forge is Comanche. He may
I believe that's he's
Comanche.
one or the other. Yeah.
I
think he's Comanche.
I would love to see them do something with those guys, but you don't have a lot of these characters. You don't have a lot of Native American.
And another good one was I want to say it's Thunderbird. Is it Jimmy? Was it Jimmy Proudstar?
Yeah,
he's in Gifted.
Yeah, he is.
And they did a pretty good job on him.
Yeah, and he's Warpath's brother.
Yeah.
So, again, great story. It's been a lot of fun. Backing out of that a little bit, talking about Sean Isaacs, he is a new artist. He has not been on the scene very long. If you look him up, you look up his wiki page or whatever you want to, he doesn't have a lot of stuff to his name, but the man is good. He is a solid. I was so impressed because I've seen some of his work before, and I've spoken with him, like I said, on Twitter, just connected with him. Such a solid young artist to be, and I'm not sure how old he is, but I say young in the sense of professionalism.
Yeah.
You can see a lot of his influences. He does a lot of cross thatching and stuff. You can see some Brian Hitch influence in there, but he also has the talent to make it fit in. When you're dealing with books that have different artists from issue to issue, and on some of the Green Lantern stuff, there's artists on there that don't do a very good job of making it mold in, and that's one of my problems. Yeah, Ethan Van Sciver, way better artist than I can ever be. I don't particularly care for his art. He doesn't do a very good job blending it in. He's not, in the terms of the best, he's not that great. He's kind of a mediocre artist, and he's been doing it for years. Sean, to do comparison, Sean Isaacs' art is hand in hand with what maybe EVS's is, and you give him a few years. Anyway. So, but you see some of these influences. I think John Byrne was an influence on him. I think you can see some of that. But he makes it fit in with the other artists who are doing this series. Artists, Pepe Larraz, who's been killing it on this book. You have to look back and pay attention, because to the layman eye, if you're just flipping through these books, like if you go get 4 issues and you're flipping through each one of them to read them at the same time, you might not realize that there is another artist doing this, because they fit in so together. And is it a house style? Yes. But when you pay attention to the details, you can see a difference between Isaacs and maybe Larraz. But they're good differences. Both of them have their own merits. And he's doing a really good job. And I can't wait to see what he's on. I hope he gets his own ongoing title, coming up soon because the man is extremely talented.
Based on that book, he should.
He absolutely should. Also, the Hulk is back, so fuck everything else. I cannot wait for next week. Like this, I just might talk about this till it ends. It's my
No. It's I need a turn. It needs to die and end. So, you might have heard me talk about a little book every now and then, called Thanos.
Oh God.
And I was really debating on if I wanted to do my looking forward book from last week be my book of the week this week, but there was some good stuff. I got caught up in Thanos this week. I got caught up in Skells and Scoundrels this week, and then I read Terrifics and stuff. But I was super excited about Thanos, and they just announced that Donny Cates is going to be writing that Cosmic Ghost Rider series. So, anyway, this issue of Thanos, number 16, I've said the names Donny Cates, Jeff Shaw, and Antonio Fabella many times before.
It really has been the year of Donny Cates. Like, not even just with Marvel.
Yeah, he's blown up this year.
Yeah.
So, little recap on the story. Thanos was dragged into the future by this Cosmic Ghost Rider. You find out that he was dragged here by old man Thanos, basically, who's pretty much conquered everything.
Mm-hmm.
He's only got one last adversary. Turns out it's the fallen Silver Surfer. And at the very end of the last issue, the last panel that we got was Silver Surfer coming through like a black hole, and he's got the Annihilus wave coming at like these three people: is Cosmic Ghost Rider, regular Thanos, and Old Man Thanos. So in that same issue, we found out that Cosmic Ghost Rider was Frank Castle, which
the Punisher
is pretty fucking badass and makes a lot of sense.
He's a trained killer.
So in this issue, we actually pick up and you get to see the progression of how the Punisher became this person. Frank is like all worn and old and gray hair and scarred up, and Thanos is attacking, he's invading, and he fucks everybody up. He kills the Hulk, he kills Spider-Man, the Doctor Strange rips Iron Man in half. Frank's basically dying, and one of the last thoughts that he has is, I would give anything to punish that purple son of a bitch. To which the universe replied, anything, and he makes his first deal with the devil, and it ends up being Mephisto.
Literally the devil.
Literally the devil. So Mephisto grants him the spirit of vengeance, so he becomes the Ghost Rider. The only problem with this is, since Thanos already ran through, there's nothing left alive on this planet for him to punish or get vengeance on. So he's just basically an immortal being traveling across the world
With nothing to take
with
vengeance on.
nothing to do, and he eventually just goes insane. So then
Which isn't a far trip for Punisher to begin with.
Yeah. He's already got some issues. So it jumps forward, I'm guessing 1,000 or so years into the future, and I guess Thanos is like stretched out and conquered even more. And all of a sudden, Galactus pops up on Earth. Galactus is looking for asylum. He is mortally wounded. He's just got a huge gash in his stomach and is just bleeding all over the place. And he's asking for help from like the Avengers or the Fantastic Four. And then he realizes that there's nobody left here that Thanos has already been here.
Can I interject and ask a question?
Go for it.
So this Galactus, recently in Marvel history, Galactus, if you read the Ultimates, or the Ultimates too, Galactus was no longer the world eater. He was the world maker or crafter or something like that.
Right.
He actually invented worlds, and he turned gold. Because I haven't read this book yet. He turned gold instead of purple. Is this the purple Galactus world eater, or is this the world creator?
As far as I could tell, it's the world eater, because soon after that, he's dying. Ghost Rider basically finds him, like, yeah, he pretty much came by and murdered everybody. And then he kind of strikes a deal with Galactus, and he's like, you know what? I'll make a deal with you. You can go ahead and eat this world and regain your strength and give me the power cosmic, and then we'll go punish that son of a bitch. So he strikes his second deal with the devil, ends up becoming Ghost Rider, Herald of Galactus, and it's fucking badass.
Right on, man.
They kind of go through this whole sort of montage of them going across the universe, destroying evil and working their way to Thanos.
Did they do it with the Beatles soundtrack?
They should.
They should have.
So then they finally get to this point where I guess they're ready to fight Thanos. And the greatest thing about this whole panel, Galactus is this huge, powerful motherfucker, and he's just scary as all get out. In this, apparently Thanos is such a huge threat that Galactus has donned armor and got the biggest fucking gun that I've ever seen in my entire life.
It's like a cable gun. Like I'm looking at the
It's
picture
a
right
Thanos or a Galactus size
Yeah.
cable gun. So they're charging Thanos, and Thanos just one-shots Galactus off with his head, done. And Ghost Rider's running up on him, just trying to shoot the shit out of him, and Thanos knocks him off of his motorcycle and basically just lays out, he's like, listen, we're both immortal. I can't kill you. You can't kill me. So what do you say I just give you things to punish for 1,000 lifetimes? You know, in his crazy state, he doesn't have anything better to do, I'm assuming. He strikes his third and final deal with the devil and becomes the rider, black right hand of the Mad King Thanos. Then they pop back into present day with a fucking awesome spread of both Thanos's and Ghost Rider fighting this Annihilus wave and Silver Surfer, and they're just cutting through everything. At one point, because Ghost Rider's using his guns and he's shooting everything, at one point the younger Thanos is like, hey, can you do something hellish and quit playing around with the guns? And Ghost Rider just says, oh yeah, I forgot I could do that. So he just lights up, and they zoom out so you could see like the horizon, like the planet's surface, and you just see this fucking nuclear size explosion, and everything's just destroyed, and just him and the two Thanoses are left standing. And of course Silver Surfer's still alive. Then we get these nice little panels of like something moving, some force just kind of going through and destroying like mountains and cities and stuff like that. And old Thanos is like, you know, why did it take you so long? Why did you come after me? Why didn't you come after me sooner? Were you waiting for me to get old and weak? And Silver Surfer, this is going to be a huge spoiler, by the way, for this issue. Silver Surfer's like, no, I wasn't waiting. I was working. Old man Thanos just says, is that so? On what? And then the next scene is Silver Surfer holding Thor's hammer. And he says,
Whoa.
On becoming worthy. And that's basically how it ended.
Whoa!
And yeah.
He's got Mjolnir. Check that
Yeah.
out.
So, but see, my thing is this, though. As badass and as cool as that is, Galactus couldn't beat this Thanos. One Thanos. All the Avengers combined couldn't beat this Thanos. How exactly is a fallen Silver Surfer with Thor's hammer gonna kill this Thanos?
He's got the power cosmic. I mean,
yeah.
Power cosmic. He's got the hammer,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got Ghost Rider's abilities, right?
No, this was Silver Surfer.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, essentially, you have Ghost Rider, Power Cosmic,
Gotcha. Okay.
and then
okay.
you have Silver Surfer, who has the Power
Thor.
Cosmic and Thor's hammer.
yeah.
So
It'll be fun.
it's gonna be a throwdown. My biggest thing coming out of this is I'm really wondering. I think they've only got 2 issues left in the story because it's Thanos Wins. With them doing an offshoot, like a mini-series, I'm really wanting to know what they're gonna do with Cosmic Ghost Rider. Is this going to take place after one of his certain points of striking a deal with the devil? Is it going to take place after he becomes Thanos' right hand? Or, I mean, I guess it all depends on however the series ends, because if the series ends with him dying, then of course it's going to take place beforehand.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Thanos has still got to get back to his time somehow. So
Can I tell you this cool little secret nerd trick that I use to find out those informations when I don't have them?
what's that?
Read the fucking books.
Oh, good one.
Wait till the book comes out.
Yeah, I'm just really interested. I kind of want to know
What's
the
gonna happen?
story is going to be.
Is Nick Spencer's going to start writing it, and he's going to turn him into a Nazi, and then Nazi Silver Surfer Thor from a different.
Can we talk about that for a second?
Oh,
like, I just
no.
want to know. Okay, so to the people who are at home who may not understand what the inside joke is, there was a series called Secret Empire that was based off of the idea that a sentient piece of the cosmic cube created a version of Captain America who was a Hydra agent and who took over America. It put the real Captain America into a pocket microverse where nothing could happen. It took Bucky Barnes and the Kobik, the sentient little girl who was actually the Cosmic Cube, to go in there and pull the real Cap out to come out and beat up Hydra Cap. Number one, Hydra, in its inception, was a offshoot of the Nazis. They were led by Red Skull. So in that version, yes, Hydra were Nazis. This version of Cap, when he took over Hydra, he kicked out all the Nazis. Even the bad version of Cap was not a Nazi. Just was not. And so people who really don't like this book and who really don't like Nick Spencer's politics online have A, not read the story, and B, launched a smear campaign to talk about how he turned Cap into a Nazi and how it's the worst thing ever, and how the people who created Cap would roll over in their graves. Except for the people who created Cap actually did a story where they made Cap into a Nazi. Another situation where people just don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And I get really tired of hearing these people, be it Twitter trolls online or whatever, turning things into something they're not. If you didn't like Secret Empire based on its own merits, that's fine. Not everything is for everybody. I personally, the reason I know what happened is because I read the story. Do I think it was the world's best? No, but it was actually a really good story. It was something different that we hadn't seen at the time. So if you're going to talk shit about creators and about the things they write, at the very least, the most minimal thing that you can do is read the goddamn book so that you know with some semblance of intelligence what you are talking about. And so I don't have to have my blood pressure risen by douchebags who don't read fucking comics.
Our news for next week is Caleb Alexander had a heart attack and is not on the podcast today.
God bless.
But no, we actually, after I ran our game last night, we kind of sat around and talked about a lot of stuff, and that got brought up. And then we brought out how many people bitched about Superior Spider-Man, even though that was a fucking amazing run. And, I mean, as much as I love the story in it, my favorite part was going to the back and reading the letters, because they would actually publish most of the letters, even the hate mail that they got. And seeing all the salty fans that were just crying and bitching about not having their fucking, like, standard Spider-Man story that's been written over and over again 1,000 fucking times. Like, yeah. Superior Spider-Man was great.
I really loved Superior Spider-Man for about the first 12 to 16 issues. But issue 34, I was really ready to have.
Well, and that's fine, because you're wanting that character back. But, guys, comics and these characters are not going away forever, even if they're away for the time being. Also, those books that you love, they still exist. You can still go pick it up. I can go read. I have Spider-Man, the Omnibuy, that collects the first, 80 issues of Spider-Man. I can go read that at any time I want to and still get those same stories. I can go read any version of Superman ever written and still get that stories. It's okay to let writers experiment with what's going on so they can make stuff that draws in, number one, a new audience, number two, that's entertaining. But if you don't read the books, if you don't want to, that's fine. But if you don't read it, you don't get an opinion, ever. Just point blank. You don't get to opine on
we
something
only want
that
to
you
cater
don't
to
read.
the old fans.
And you don't own these characters.
No.
For
And
the love
if
of
you can
Christ.
do
Can we
better,
say that for every fandom out there, please?
Seriously.
You don't own the characters. You are a fan of the characters. The characters are allowed to have their own story based upon whoever is writing them at the time. Let that story be what it is. You can choose whether you like that story or not, but to say it ruined your childhood, it ruined your what... Shut the fuck up. Okay? They're not your characters. Go away. If you're no longer a fan because of that, just go away. It's okay.
And that's about as negative as
we
we'll get on
apparently
this podcast.
triggered a meter in the background. That's like it's the negativity meter that's going off. But yeah,
Salty fandoms.
Just chill out and let books run their course. Trust writers to do what they're going to do. Don't freak out because you think that Catwoman or that you think that Batman's about to make out with Wonder Woman and cheat on Catwoman, and then when the very next issue turns out Tom King knows what the hell he's doing. Calm down. Take a minute. Let these stories allow you to feel things. That's a writer's job, is to connect with your humanity and your emotions and to make you feel something. It might not always be good. It might not always be great, but you're going to feel something, and when that happens, they are successful. I know we talk about this a lot because fandom has turned toxic. It really has. People think that they have a right to yell at people online. They have a right to harass people. And also, the anonymity of the internet makes it really easy for some douchebags with 2 followers to go and scream, cuss, call people out for being gay, for being women, for just having they don't think that there's a place for comics to exist in this world. And I get fucking tired of it. I really do. So that's,
So, yeah, Thanos was really great. I really like that book.
It's all your fault, Jerry.
I feel everybody should check it out.
Thanos is wonderful. Thanos is absolutely wonderful.
I do hear, though, after the Thanos win storyline, they're gonna be ending the series after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But again, sometimes it's better to have a book end that you really like than to have them carry it on. I mean, it's already on its third writer, I think. So second writer.
For this run,
yeah. So sometimes it's better just to end it. You had 2 great story arcs or 3 great story arcs. End it and move on to the next phase rather than
right. And they've probably got big plans for Thanos anyway, since Infinity War's come out.
It's hard to write a protagonist that's a bad guy and make the book be compelling to people to want to read. So the fact that you got 3 really good story arcs out of it is saying something.
Well, and I think that's one of the reasons they're using the Punisher, because if you look back in history, the Punisher is the ultimate anti-hero. He is not a good guy. He is not a hero. He is, in fact, a villain, a villainous type person that does his villainy for a reason that we understand on some natural level. That links it over to it. So I'm really glad they chose him to throw into the arc with Thanos.
I actually just finally picked up the Netflix series.
Very cool.
I've been digging it. Yeah.
Right on,
I think it's the only Marvel Netflix series that I haven't seen yet.
Right on.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. So speaking of moving on to the next section, we're going to take a deep breath, exhale, calm down.
Breathe in blue.
Yeah, just
Exhale
be happy
purple.
about the amazing world of comics that we all know and love. And we're going to get a little bit of ahead of ourselves, and we're going to talk about some books that come out on Wednesday that are not out yet. We haven't read them yet, but looking at the previews, looking at stuff that it's going to hit the shelves, we're really excited about these books. So, Craig, what are you looking up next week? What's your fresh pick for next week?
Yeah, my fresh pick is Jughead the Hunger #4 from Archie Comics.
Yes, I didn't know that was coming out next week.
Frank Thierry, Pat Kennedy, and Adam Gorham are the creators on this thing. It's the continuing adventures of Jughead as a werewolf. If you need more inspiration than that to read a book, he's on the run from Betty Cooper, the werewolf hunter, and her crazy
uncle or something.
Aunt.
Is it her aunt? Yeah.
That is either a werewolf hunter or a werewolf herself. And yeah, so pick it up. You know, Jughead always has been about being hungry all the time. And imagine that hunger is a werewolf.
Yeah,
and
man.
It's in the Dark Archie series, that separate world than the Afterlife with Archie, but the same dark world. The Sabrina Archie, Afterlife with Archie, and Jughead the Hunger are in, and all of them are good series. This one's really good. If you're not reading it, pick it up.
I just tossed all the issues in my box. So I'll probably be picking it up soon.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Jerry, what are you reading next week, buddy?
There's actually 2 books that I'm really excited about. One, Scales and Scoundrels #7, because I just got caught up on that. And if you haven't read Scales and Scoundrels, it's a really good fantasy adventure story. And it's actually fun for the whole family. Like, it's open.
It's a PG version of Rat Queens, for those of you that have heard us talk about Rat Queens.
It's just been really good. I've really enjoyed the characters, and the whole storyline of it's been great. The big one that I think Image has coming out next week is Oblivion Song by Robert Kirkman.
Oh,
nice.
I did not know that landed.
Yeah, it's Robert Kirkman and Dave Felici.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. The whole premise of it is, let's see, a decade ago, 300,000 citizens of Philadelphia were suddenly lost in oblivion. The government made every attempt to recover them, but after many years, they gave up. Nathan Cole won't. He makes daily trips, risking his life to try and rescue those still living in the apocalyptic hellscape of oblivion. But maybe Nathan is looking for something else. Why can't he resist the siren call of the Oblivion Song?
Bum, bum, bum.
So I'm definitely going to be checking out.
I'm probably going to be grabbed now. So Robert Kirkman, he's a new guy. He hasn't done very much. No, this
He's new
dude
to
wrote
comics.
this dude wrote The Walking Dead, guys, and is still writing The Walking Dead.
If you want to, if you're a comic prospector, go pick up #1.
Yeah,
And don't read it. Just pick it up and put it in your bag and board and hold on to it.
It doesn't take a genius to realize that to hedge their bets for this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Robert Kirkman.
Get 2 copies. Get 3.
Get 2, get 1 you're going to read, and put 1 in your bag and board. And I'm not a person that necessarily advocates that, but if you are a person that is a prospector, pick this book up.
Do it. I mean, at least if you're prospecting, you're buying books.
Yep.
So my fresh pick for next week comes from a little company called Dynamite Entertainment. It is Green Hornet, Volume 4, Number 1. We are getting a new series of the Green Hornet with a little bit of a twist. I mean, I have my tropes, I guess. I'm a mark for certain things. In this book, Britt Reed Jr., the scion of Daily Sentinel Publishing Empire, vanishes during a wild party, like is wont to happen when you get drunk on your friend's yacht. While he's missing...
Is Robert Wagner on that yacht with him?
Ooh, I puckered a little bit. Aye. While Britt is missing, crime just goes on the rampage.
Yeah.
It's almost as if
The hero's gone.
Britt Reed Jr. might be the Green Hornet. Yeah, Britt Reed Jr. is the Green Hornet. We know this. So while he's missing, it's only a matter of time before someone puts 2 and 2 together, and the guy who does it is his partner, Kato, his trusty sidekick of all time. Kato gets Britt's daughter, named Mulan, to help him solve the crime and protect the city. It's a legacy thing. And once again, Mulan is now going to be the Green Hornet, and that's just really cool. This book is, it's written by Amy Chu, who has written Red Sonja, Poison, Ivy, Kiss, of all things. It picks up where Kevin Smith left off in his mystery-packed action-packed mystery. Because I can't, I don't know, guys.
Words.
I'm done. I'm just so befuddled.
Well, the thing about it, I thought Kato was actually going to be Green Hornet. So this is an interesting twist from what I thought. So, no, I mean, I'm sure you're right. You just read it.
Well, if you look at the cover that's put out
For the solicitation.
for the solicitation that was put out in the previews catalog, or that's on like Midtown Comics or something like that, it's got a picture of her, and she's got the jacket on,
Awesome.
and she's got the mask on. So I think she's taking that mantle, and
Awesome.
Kato is going to keep being Kato.
That's awesome.
Which I think is really cool.
Have they done something like this before? Because I remember a few years ago sorting back issues or something, and I remember there being a female, either Green Hornet or Kato.
I could not tell you enough of the Green Hornet background to know. It's kind of like Spirit. I know what it is, and I know who he is, but I don't know enough of the story to know all the ins and outs.
I wouldn't be surprised, and that may be what it's talking about when it says it's picking up where Kevin Smith left off. That may be where he did it, because it's been a while since he's written the Green Hornet. So I'm really excited about that book. Can't wait to grab it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And, I like pulp characters, and I also like strong female protagonists. So,
there you go.
Kind of the best of both worlds for this for me. So, well, guys, do we have anything else we need to go over in the world of geekery?
Not really.
I'm good, man. I think
All right,
we
man. Well,
discussed
let's
this week.
bring this thing home. Guys, thank you out there in Radio Land for listening. We really appreciate it. We know that time is a valuable thing, and it means a lot to us that you lend us your ears for this hour and a half, 2-hour episode. If you have liked what you heard, and we truly hope you have, go on iTunes and leave us a review. Leave us a couple stars. You can always email us at southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. Let us know what you're liking, what you're disliking. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. If you have any things that you need to talk about, or you want us to talk about.
Or if you want to know my top 5 tentacle porn hentai series that I'm into, just throw that out there.
Do it.
Yeah.
Let's. We can come up with lists, guys. You can always find us on Twitter and on the Instagram at SFG Podcast. Now we have a Facebook page, and we are very active on there. We would love it if you guys would quote unquote friend us. Get on there, post links, post what you're reading, post what you're watching on TV. Just join us. Let's create a space where we can all talk about things we really enjoy. As always, come back for more next week. We would really like to thank Miss Nancy A. Collins for sitting down with us and letting us speak to her about some of her work. Sean, we really hope you get to feeling better.
Love you, buddy.
Always. And if that's all we got, guys, go forth and read some comics.
That's it.
Ba-dum, ba-dum.